Okay, so bit of a catch up on the car. Right, I've been away with work for the last few weeks, so not really had much of a chance to do too much welding, even though I've been backwards and forwards to home. I haven't really wanted to get into it too much, just because, you know, I like to have a good few hours of doing something rather than just pulling the welder out for 5 minutes. I've made a couple of improvements to the workshop, improvements to me, probably not necessarily to everyone else, but I put a few extra lights in, and like I say, I'm working out of a burnt out workshop at the minute. I'm in the back end of it, and I've got a sheet over the roof, so I'm kind of rough with the smooth really. I don't want to fit anything too permanent. I've got a temporary supply out there which is supplied off of someone else, knowingly. It's all proper garage consumer unit with RCDs, etc., so it's all safe. I just put some extra lights in just so they're like a warm white. A lot of the other lights I had all of them were cool white, and I find it quite harsh on the eye. But give the place a bit of a sweep up as well. Do need to tidy it a bit more, and I've got to think of getting some of this stuff out of here. Anyway, just a bit of an update. But yeah, mainly I'm getting on with the car with these sills. Like I say, I've made quite a bit of headway before by welding the sills on. I've got the panels to fit. You can see my other videos for that. Now there's a lot of the final sort of dressing, welding, plugging, etc. I've made a few sort of plates for it underneath as well. It hasn't needed too many. The car's in quite good nick, but it's just more sort of improvements rather than replacement or MOT repair. I know a lot of people are probably going to talk about splatter on the paint. Don't worry about it too much. A lot of this car's going to get painted, so don't worry about it. All that's going to get smoothed off. A little bit of filler in there, bit of the old favourite. Mainly, before anything else goes on, I will be putting a rust proofer that I use, which is called Hydrate 80. A lot of people who restore cars use it. It's essentially a rust killer / preventative. Inside the sills I'm using stuff called Dynax, which is sold by the same company, which is called Built and Hammer. They're good products, I've used them for years. I actually did a sort of mini experiment a couple of years ago, not on purpose necessarily, but I painted a piece of sheet in the Hydrate 80, and I actually left it outside you know, for a few seasons, and there's not one bit of rust on it, and it was mild steel, so it can't be too bad. Obviously the sill's already galved, so you know we don't have to go too mad, but in the parts that have been hot and have been rubbed away, they will need protection, otherwise they'll just bubble up and come through, especially as you know the car gets driven in sultry conditions or whatever on the road, not through the sea obviously, but when the roads get gritted, etc. Yeah, but yeah, we're here now, so I cracked on with. I always like to get them welded on quite quickly, because if you don't, you end up stalling on them, and then you start thinking, oh, maybe if I could make it fit like this and fit like that. Better just to cut it off, get it prepped, weld it on, think about the rest of it later. Try and plan little bits like that quadrant and stuff though. I have done cars before where I haven't made that planning to start with, and I've tried to fit something in afterwards, and it's more of a game afterwards, trust me, because you'll have to make it to the sill being on the car. I'm sort of learned to do that first really, so I've just tap everything out and weld it afterwards. It's the same fit on the other side, pretty much. So yeah, so I'm gonna get moving on it. I'm gonna tack these bits on there, just close them in, and I'll do the same on the other side. and I've got a little thing to make as well later for my got a van, and I've got what do you call it, an Eber, I think it's called an Eber spatcher or Eber spacker. Different people call it different names, but an air heater essentially. It's a genuine one, and I've kind of, it was glanded through the floor originally. I'm going to move it. I've moved it in the van and concealed it, and I've just got like a through gland plate to make for it, just to make it tight. I've got a big hole in the bottom of the van at the minute, about 4 inches wide. So yeah, that's that. I'm going to sort of weld, if anybody was wondering, sort of weld everything this thickness on about 17 volts. I can't remember the inches per minute because my machine is quite metric, and got one of these Jasic welders. They're cracking. If anybody's thinking about buying a Jasic welder and wondering if it's for them, trust me, even though they look like they're somewhere in between budget and expensive, they are a good welder. You probably won't regret it. I've got quite a few Jasic items, and they come with this massive warranty as well. I actually bought mine off of BOC. I know a lot of people are going to say don't buy anything off of BOC, but I got quite a good deal at the time. I paid less than £1,000 all in for this welder. It's a 250 amp MIG. You know, it's a shop MIG as well. It's not like a suitcase MIG. I would have use for a suitcase MIG, but I just, for when I'm doing stuff here, I prefer having something on wheels. I just do, especially a machine this size, and it's quite lightweight in that. Anyway, machine's not turned on in a minute, but it is about 17 volts, and what's that? It's sitting just below 8.5 meters per minute. So I'll let you do the calculation. If I can be bothered, I'll do it later. I have got it all worked out. I made my own chart, cross-reference chart, off of the Miller guidelines, welding guidelines. Everything's worked out quite well. So yeah, sills basically today, and I'll make that gland plate. Then I'll just have a bit of a break after that, just to make sure everything's good. Yeah, all right then. Right, so there you go. So you can see by some of the other videos, just fill in some of the gaps just with weld, not the actual holes, the ones that will be nasty to fill. And I've got it to a point of where I'm ready to put the rust proof on. I've done the rear, the quadrant. I've welded the quadrant. I'm going to put some hydrate 80 on that. I'll be under sealing in the back of here. I'll probably put some seam sealer in there as well, just to make sure nothing can get in there. I've tidied up the top as much as I want it to be at the minute. Like I say, a few rough bits there. I'm going to be putting the rust proofer on, and then I'm going to put the filler on. Okay, but I've got to acetone it first just to clean it down. But like I said, I don't claim to do any neat body work or anything. I'm just doing this to get it structurally nice again, and no rust basically. Yeah, so but I think it'll be good enough for that. I'm just getting all the nasty little bits off. I bought a Black Friday deal off of FFX, Folkestone Fixings. I got one of these. It's a sander polisher. I have actually got an air one that a Blue Point one that's an air prep tool, but I'm without a compressor at the minute. The fucking compressor's packed up, so way it goes. So I've just got one of them, cost me 80 quid or something, so it's enough to get me running again. Takes a Rolock pad, and you can just interchange Scotch Brights and abrasives on there, so it's easy. Yeah, so just final bits of tidying it up before I put the rust proofer and the filler on there. I don't know if I'll have time for the other side tonight. I thought I'd had bags of time, but probably not. I don't want to make too much noise late at night. So yeah, I'm just going to get on with that. Right, So I've done a lot of the tidying on this side. Sort of run out of time tonight. I thought I was going to be able to get the other side done as well, but very typical. Just filled in most of the holes, the rough bits, and I've put the first coat of Hydrate 80 on there. I will be putting 2 on there just because there are bits that come adrift and you miss, and you'll sort of get like brush lines in it. Once I've got, you know, fairly thick, sometimes I even go sort of 3 coats, and you'll find this kind of goes off to a dark colour, and it kind of goes off a bit like a plastic. It does key in very well, I have to say. You know, if you try not to get it on anything you don't want it to be on, basically, it goes off a bit like a plastic. So after it's set on there properly, about 3 or 4 degrees outside in a minute, so it will take a while to set properly. When it sets properly, I'm just going to Scotch-Brite it down, take a lot of the brush lines out of it. I'm going to put filler in anyway, like I said, to get some of the other rough bits out. Doesn't even really need it. I have actually run vehicles around like this before on the sills, and you've not seen any more rust out of them, and people haven't really commented how rough the car looks. It does usually give you a bit of a finish, but obviously I want to paint it. So yeah, I'll flatten it off, put the filler on, you know, the tops and all the other bits, and I'll flatten it off and I'll prime it, and I'll get the 2-pack on there as well. Top coat, base and lacquer. I've got most of it here, that's because I've sprayed little bits over time. Not the best weather for spraying, so I'll probably not bother. If I do any spraying, it will probably just be the lacquer, and I'll probably leave a heat lamp on it. This ain't the weather to be spraying top coats unless you've got a controlled environment, in my opinion. It's just no point. All the moisture in that will creep in. It won't set properly. I have done it, but yeah, it's just not ideal really. Yeah, so I'll get the other side done. I've flattened most of the other side off, so by the time, you know, there's a few layers of paint and a high build on there and a little bit of fella here and there, you'll never be able to tell, I don't think. Well, not very well, not very easily, not to the first glance. Yeah, so it's coming out quite good. I'm fairly happy with it. Yeah, so I'm just going to get packed up tonight, get back home, have some dinner. Okay, that's the near side. Put the rust protection on there, the Belt and Hammer Hydrate 80. As you can see, it always looks all right with that stuff on there because it builds quite heavy. But yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I think most of it's quite straight and level on the car. I've put a couple of coats of that stuff on, so minimum of 2 coats really, just to make sure the background is blocked out. I'll wait for it to set. Only takes a few hours, but I'm done for tonight. And I'll put some filler on it another day, smooth everything out. And there are a couple of little bits I'm going to sort of put some rust protection on underneath as well, and then I'll start prepping for the primer. Primer, and I guess I'll underseal. Yeah, I'll underseal the underneath as well. So yeah, not too bad. Even a lot of those tacks and that, I sort of built them up again and again, and used that little Milwaukee sander just to sand everything right back, with some Rolock sanding discs. Don't look too bad. By the time everything's built up on there, you won't really know, I don't think. So it'll be quite a sleek fitment. I'll probably rock without side skirts when everything's fitted, just because I want to try that look, just see what it looks like. It's going to be pretty bare on the sides, but you know, I quite like it, so I'll see how it goes. I might end up fitting them, but you can always drill the holes later to fit them, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah.